guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who's B, it's your girl KylerB coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about KylerB, which is a Netflix new TV show which was based off of the Judy Blume's book KylerB of the same title. It's basically inspired, it's featuring an all-black cast and it's following these young adult, high schoolers at the time, Justin and Keisha, basically young adult, young romance, basically. So first and foremost, we have been advocating for, black leading young adult shows, black leads, more black leads in, YA TV shows, films, whatever. KylerB on Netflix, basically following the lives of Justin and Keisha. And, let me set up the scene before we start, analyzing each character from this series. KylerB basically gives the vibes of Insecure for, high school young adults. Essentially, the music production on this thing basically reminds me of Insecure, basically having good music, good soundtrack for each episode. Also, this show is based in California. Well, the setting is in California. So you basically see, like, the skyline, the Hollywood Hills, whatever, LA, Burbank, all that, so it basically giving that Insecure type of settings, essentially. So it's like if, Issa wasn't back in high school, and that's basically what KylerB is kind of giving, and she had found, her Justin, and this is where we fall in. So let me give you like some little background on Keisha's part. Keisha used to go to the school, which is called, JTD or something like that. She used to go to the school with this guy she was dating or whatever at that time. She did some business, gave him the works, and she either filmed that situation, she sent the video to him, and then he decided to betray her and send the video to somebody else to prove a point. So that video got spread out. Everybody started talking about her, and she basically had to up and leave that school, losing her scholarship. So this is basically, setting up the scene. Anyway, is her junior year, basically winter break that time. She decides to, to go to her friend Chloe's party for New Year's Eve. So Justin, he's friends with Darius, and Darius invited him to this New Year's Eve party as well. So they get to the party, meet each other up, next thing you know, he sees Keisha. Keisha remembers him from kindergarten because they used to go to school together in kindergarten, play track together, and, they started getting along. When it's time for the countdown for New Year's, he was, so infatuated with Keisha's beauty, whatever. They share a kiss, invited her the next day on a date to hang out, exchange numbers, basically to start, like, telling each other what they like. And it's basically high school, so, like, what else do you have to talk about? So they're talking about TV shows, what they like to eat, So they go on this date, and, the first thing that happened on the date, after they ate some noodles or, some hot dogs or whatever, they went to the store to buy something. So at the store, Justin's like buying some new shoes or whatever. So he's like, Keisha, you want anything? Like, and she was like, I don't really have the money to buy something right now. So he was like, I got you, pick up anything you want. He got it like that. So she's like, oh, okay. So she like picked up this like track bag. So at the end, when he's paying for the track bag, he's like, if you didn't get anything, I was gonna buy these things. So she was like, I'm helping you out, so I helped you out. And then I guess he didn't get what she was trying to say, but he was like, no, I helped you out. So Keisha's face when he said that was like, what are you talking about? So we were at the movie theaters, they watching the movie, whatever, and then, they started kissing. So then Keisha started to be like, okay, gonna give Justin the works. So Justin's like, you don't have to do that. So he's like, are you doing this because, I brought you something? So Keisha took it like very offensive, like, what do you mean? Oh, you brought me something, so I'm gonna, do that. So, but he was like, no, you don't have to do that, because what he meant was, you don't have to do that because I just brought you something. But, Keisha was so offended by him saying, like, oh, you're doing that because I brought you something. So she, like, left the theater, whatever. She blocked him on everything. It was wraps. Justin was done, because, he insinuated that. So he sees his phone, sees the viral video of Keisha and Christian. And, like, he wanted to apologize to Keisha about the situation. So Keisha blocked him on everything. So he had to really work, like, for that unblock. So he had these kindergarteners basically tag Keisha and be like, please unblock Justin, please unblock Justin. So Justin basically was still doing, like, his, driver lessons, before he gets his license, gets a permit, whatever. And he basically hijacked his driver's lesson, go over to Keisha's school to get her attention and basically say, like, I'm sorry, please unblock me, all that. And then, because of the situation, he got in trouble by his parents. And, his mom was like, no, give me your phone, give me your laptop, all that. You're not gonna use any electronics. So he's unblocked from Keisha. Keisha texted him, I always had a crush on you, all that. And before he can send anything back, it was like the most inopportune time. His mom takes his phone away. And, Keisha's like, oh, so you ghosted me. So he got blocked a second time. So it was really like the miscommunication, and then the, like, unfortunate events basically leading up. And it was just like so much going on in those first few episodes, because it was like, wow. But, it is what it is. So he had to get, Keisha to unblock him. He had to get his friend Daria's phone and basically, I guess, message. I think he should have called her on his, on Darius's phone, but he uses his, Darius's Instagram, and he, like, messaged Keisha through his, and was like, oh, it's Justin, like, my mom took everything, so, for him to get him blocked. So, that's how it happened, that's how it go. They started dating, everything after all of that gets awry, Black Keisha, the family knew, like, oh, you were talking to Black Keisha? Well, here's your phone back, here's everything back. All that. Then the next problem arrives, which is Christian comes into the forefront, basically trying to get Keisha's attention, but he messed up by sending that video, basically causing Keisha to leave that school, leave her scholarship. And then he wanted to be like, oh, I'm sorry, like, he wanted to get Keisha back. And Keisha's like, nah. So Keisha comes in the point, like, Justin's like, I thought we had something going on. What you doing with this dude? And then this dude's basically talking about he want to take her to prom and sending her flowers and everything. And, like, Justin's over here like, I thought we had something going on. What you doing with this guy? The guy who betrayed you. So what happens is, Keisha decides to go to, after saying no, she has a boyfriend, all that, she still decides to go to prom with Christian. Which I'm just like, you didn't have to go to prom with Christian. You did not. But, well, before we deep dive into that situation, let's talk about Justin. So Justin is basically, this is junior at the time, has ADHD basically, and he's playing for basketball at this school. So he's riding the bench. Probably because of his grades, but most likely because, the donors for that school is like, high donors or whatever, and the coach is probably like being persuaded to put the sons of the donors in, because, that's what it seems like. But most likely, and probably his grades, why, if you're not making these good grades, you're going to be on suspension. So, could be either or. But anywho, like, has an affluent family. His mom, I guess, is a therapist. I don't know what really is her career, but I know his father is a chef. And, he got businesses, the mother has connections, he has businesses, like, they affluent black family. And I was like, yes. Keisha basically as a single mother, because the father was absentee. You know, the cousins were helping out, the grandfather was helping out, but the father, no. Back to the whole Christian situation. So basically, she told him that Christian was the one who did her dirty, betrayed or whatever. He shows up to his brother's baseball game or that same park area and talks to Keisha. They go over to Keisha. He's like watching them have their conversation. And from Justin's point of view, is like Keisha's like entertaining Christian, you know, like right in front of, you know, him and his mom and everything. So he's upset. You know, they're not official yet, but it's like, you know, they thought they were cool. They, you know, working towards something. And then, you know, Christian shows up and kind of like ruins everything. So he was upset with her about the whole situation. You know, he was just like, you know what, like, leave it alone. You know, he had a basketball game, and I guess, you know, she showed up to the basketball game because Christian was playing his school. So he was riding the bench because, I guess, because it's just, you know, his grade, academic scores, whatever, was kind of low, or because the coach wasn't putting him in because, you know, other, you know, donors for the school was, you know, persuading him. We don't really know, but obviously is leaning towards his grades were very low at that point, so he had to ride the bench. Anyways, his team was losing. So Justin was like, you know what, let me put myself in the game. You know, he put his own self in the game. You know, start shooting threes, start shooting this, taking the ball. Like, he did his thing in that game. Even though he wasn't supposed to be playing, he did that thing. He ended up winning the game for his team, and, you know, he was still, after he won the game, he was still ignoring Keisha. So, one of my favorite episodes and scenes is when he's, like, you know, gets invited by Darius to go to, like, you know, some bowling alley or whatever. And he doesn't know where it is. He usually gets, you know, driven around, or his parents would, you know, take him, whatever. And, you know, he's walking away. Keisha's like, you know, you don't know where it is. You know where you're going, da-da-da. He gets on the bus. He uses Amex card. He uses Amex card to tap the bus. Like he's like, I got you. She used her bus pass. And then, like, they're walking, like, all over the city of California or whatever, LA. Walking. They go down to the train station to go wherever they need to go to. And, you know, he's, like, sitting and listening to his music. Keisha, you know, took his earphone, and, you know, as soon as she touched his leg, it was over. It was wraps.
You don't know where you're going, do you? Follow me.
Lemon.
Congratulations.
He kind of gave in. But, like, all over the city, you know, she was determined to try to, like, you know, make it up to Justin because, you know, how it looked to him was very, you know, messed up. You know, you entertaining the dude that did you dirty, did you wrong, the reason why you're in the situation you're in the first place. So, you know, they made up, they're all cool, they're all good, whatever. And then they started dating, everything. But then she finds out that her mom, you know, brought her this expensive dress, and then the rent for the apartment that they're living in, is going up. So she's like, you know, for Keisha, she wants to uphold the image that her mom and cousins or whatever have for her. Because now let's start diving into it. Let's get into it. Keisha's family is always calling Christian the next Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, you know? So they were together, knowing that they were together, they're like, oh, you know, Keisha being with Christian, they're going to get them out the hood, you know, they're going to be good, well off, you know, they be together, the power couple, whatever. She's going to go to Howard for track, all that. And, like, she's going to get with Christian. So they basically have this kind of dream for Keisha and this image for Keisha about this situation. So they're kind of just, like, you know, riding on that. So Keisha hearing all this stuff, she wants to basically keep that image that, oh, my family's basically counting on me to keep this image. But I feel like what was her best interest was for them to, even if she doesn't want to tell them about the tape, just to say, like, he did me dirty, I don't want to go to you know, the prom with him. Because the thing is, she could have took that same dress and go to the prom with Justin. She did not have to go to the prom with Christian, because what was she getting out of that prom besides, you know, basically making her family think that you know, her and Christian are gonna be a power couple, because after that prom, was you and Christian hanging out all the time? No. Like, what was the point of that? Like, next thing you know, you're gonna tell your family, like, oh, you and Christian broke up. So what was the whole point of that? If there was no long-term, effects to what you're doing, why did you even go to? You could have just said, well, I'm not gonna let the dress go to waste. I'm gonna invite Justin to the prom. She should have did that. She telling Justin, accepting to be Justin's girlfriend, all that, telling him like, oh, I told Christian that we're a couple, or I'm not going to the prom with him, just to turn back and say, oh no, I gotta go to the prom with him, and think he's gonna, thinks they're sweet. We're gonna, like, he has to, sit and take that. Like, you gotta be so for real. You gotta be so for real, Keisha. Like, you can't say, what you did wasn't foul. Like, it was. So, he blocked her. He blocked her on everything. She still ended up going to the prom with Christian. And, it, like, 3 months, no talk. It was summer break, between junior and senior year of high school. So, we have that. So, when we get to episode 5, Martha's Vineyard, she heard when they were dating, Justin's family told her that, they go to Martha's Vineyard every summer, and whatnot. So, Chloe conveniently has an aunt in Martha's Vineyard, and basically invited Keisha to go. So Keisha ended up going because she's trying to hunt down Justin. She's trying to get her man back, but her man not, hearing it from her. So she basically took 3 buses and biked to try to find, Justin and his family. They were like, oh, where the black people at? The black people are out in Oak Bluffs, okay? Try to find Justin. She ended up not finding him. So we're going to pause that and go back to Justin's point of view. So Justin, he basically, blocked Keisha on everything for the Christian situation. Rightfully so. You can't really blame him. Because she blocked him twice over some little miscommunication. This was like a big slap in the face. Like, let's be so for real. Like rightfully so. So anyways, he was so heartbroken. Because, like, his family was like, oh, Black Keisha, getting invited, to the house, being treated as family, like, one of their own, like, very welcoming, just to end up turning out breaking Justin's heart. He was so distraught, so ready to crash out, like, him cursing out his little brother, and, like, being so, like, angry that day that, Dawn had to basically be like, you know what, you don't even have to go to school today. Just seeing how heartbroken he was. Dawn was in fight or flight mode for her son. And you know what? Seeing how Keisha basically did Justin dirty, she basically on Team Justin, like, that's her son. So, for those last months of junior year, he locked in, basically secluded himself, like, wasn't really going out like that, just being by himself. Like, he really wasn't really about that. He was so heartbroken. They were at Martha's Vineyard. He was just in his room, like, listening to lo-fi beats. That was it. So when Keisha popped up at Oak Bluffs in some type of arcade, and, sees, Jaden at the, arcade, his brother, and then sees, Dawn, she's like, oh, hey, da-da-da-da. Dawn over here, like, she's watching her, but, like, in her mind, she just, like, why are you here? Like, how, like, how convenient, or, what a coincidence that you're here, you know what I'm saying? They're vacationing in Martha's Vineyard with, Dawn's basically best friend, who's basically kind of like an aunt to, the family. She also has a daughter named Shannon. So Shannon over here was being way too freaked out in this episode. Basically was trying to be like, oh, we're both going on to college, let's try to do the deed. And he's just like, we're basically cousins, like, what are we doing? But the one good thing Shannon told him was that blocked people can still send voicemails. So she basically told Justin, like, look at your block list and see if Keisha left you a voicemail. he basically ended up looking through the block list and falling asleep to listening to all her voicemails. And like her voicemails were just so sweet, like, you know, her basically watching Naruto and eating ramen and all that, doing the stuff that he likes to do, and just basically knowing that she messed up and trying to, like, you know, reach out to him and get him back. It was just so, like, and he fell asleep, and I think somehow, some way, he unblocked her when he was listening to them. So she called his phone, like, as soon as they woke up, and then with that reunion, when they, like, both started running together, was so sweet.
Can't be by ourselves, we will always need each other.
God, you're still here.
You know, they're back together, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yay! You know, she's upset, you know, sorry for how things ended or how things went through and all that. And then they had their time together. So everything is going peachy keen. They're all together, going through senior year together. They're all together, back together, da da da. Then at the end of the trip, some lady from Keisha's old school basically tells Dawn, "Oh, I'm so, like, happy for Keisha, like, she's, you know, doing better after everything that happened." And she tells Dawn about the tape. And Dawn's like, "What? Tape?" And, you know, she basically, you know, waited until they got home to tell Justin about, like, do you know Keisha has a tape? But Justin's like, yeah, I do know. And then, you know, but she hasn't told her mom yet. So, you know, as a parent, you know, for Dawn, she's a parent, you know, she, knowing this information and knowing that Keisha's mom doesn't know yet, you know, she did the motherly thing to do, to basically tell Keisha's parent, like, hey, if you don't tell her about the situation, then I'm gonna have to be obligated to tell her.
Yeah, I don't like how everybody is going around talking about this little girl so casually.
Okay, so all of a sudden we care now?
Hey.
I mean, just yesterday you told me to break up with her, so I'm confused.
Yeah, I did skip to how this affects my child without considering what she was going through. Thank you for throwing water on my face. What does Shelly think?
And, you know, Keisha ended up telling her mom about the tape. And, you know, as hard it was for Keisha to do, it had to happen. You know, Keisha was going through the situation alone, while Christian has not reaped any repercussions for that situation. And I feel like the thing is, like, she could have told her parents sooner, like, hey, the reason why you're struggling, working 2 jobs, trying to pay the tuition for my new school, is because Christian betrayed my trust and sent that video out. You know, the mother wanted to take it for legal action, but Keisha was just like, I don't want to be remembered for that tape. And, you know, she just want to keep it in the past. And it's just like, you know what? It's your decision, really, Keisha. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But, you know, the mother kind of felt like, you know, she didn't do her job in, you know, in this situation to, like, protect Keisha from this, you know, that happened. So, you know, there you have it. But it had to happen. It had to happen.
You're a kid. You should be able to make a mistake. I made a mistake, too. I realized I didn't create an environment where you felt safe enough to come to me with something like this.
Anywho, that was another situation that they had to hoop over. And, you know, we hear Dawn basically saying, like, you know, therapy works wonders for my family. So, you know, she basically gave a tip to Keisha's mom, Shelly. Shelly, you know, decided to take, you know, Dawn up on that. And she did a session. And, you know, having that final talk with Keisha about the situation, you know, she was just, like, you know, apologetic for it. And she was just like, I just want to do what, you know, what makes you happy. If that didn't make you happy, then let me know. You know, she didn't want to, like, pressure her or push anything on her, you know? So that's what went down. So then, now we're in the last act of the whole situation. They're in their senior year, everything peachy keen. They went through all these hurdles, the whole Christian situation, prom, whatever, all that. Now, you know, they're getting ready to get to college. So Dawn, she wants Justin to go to Northwestern. Another PWI. But Justin, what makes him happy as of now is making music. You know, making beats, making music, wanting to be a musician, like producer, all that. Keisha, she knows that she wants to go to Howard University to run track. He's thinking that he wants to go to Northwestern to be an NBA player, to play basketball in the NBA. But if you're riding the bench in high school, throughout your high school career, because of your low grades, how do you think you can get to the NBA? And I think, Uncle Charlie, as messy as Uncle Charlie was, he was trying to be real with Justin, like, hey, let's be real. Like, you are not going to go into the NBA. You're just not. You want to go to Northwestern because your mom wanted you to go to play basketball, and you're riding the bench. And you want to get into the NBA? Like, let's be so serious. Like, Charlie, he was being messy, but he was being serious. He was trying to be serious. So, Justin, when Dawn was like, did you write your, letter, your admissions letter, whatever? And, did you proofread it, And she, he was just like, basically like, oh, he just want to go see Keisha. So he was, Dawn was just like, this is your future. Like, you need to have something outside of Keisha. You can't just be throwing it away just to be with Keisha, you know what I'm saying? So that was basically like the first instance where you kind of just be like, yeah, Dawn is right. You need to like stop just looking for it as Keisha as the only thing that makes you happy. You need to like find something that makes you happy solely. So we get to essentially when it gets to Keisha getting to Howard University, and then Keisha's father basically coming in the last showers of rain to basically talk on Justin, which I'm just like, dude, you're basically an absentee and deadbeat father, because if you really were chipping in, helping out Keisha and her family, Keisha's mother probably wouldn't be struggling so much. Her mom would have been struggling so much. Keisha's mother had to work 2 jobs. If you were such a father that was providing financially for Keisha, Shelly wouldn't have to be struggling so hard. And probably Keisha wouldn't have probably felt the burden of her family members on her to, lie and protect Christian and all that. You know what I'm saying? But he came in the last showers of rain to talk on Justin and be like, oh, you gonna go to school for music? Do you even have a portfolio? And I'm just like, the grandpa had to, step up and be like, what are you even doing? Like, to check it, So, and then it came down to it, like, what does, Keisha's like, when Justin got into Northwestern, she's like, oh, I'm sorry you got into the school. But I mean, I feel like what was wrong on Dawn's part, I feel like she should have communicated with Justin, like, hey, what college do you want to go to? What do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? Because you can't just go to college for NBA or basketball knowing your son does play well. He does play well, but he doesn't have no portfolio to back it up. I mean, besides that one game he helped win, he doesn't have nothing to back it up or have no stats. I mean, he could try on for the basketball team, but does he really like basketball, or is he just doing it just to do it? I mean, if he does like basketball, then he should continue to do it. Now, for school, well, Justin has been going to PWIs all the time. So for him to even get with Keisha, it was basically fate, to be honest, because Dawn wanted him with a black girl, and fortunately enough, Keisha is the black girl. But you go into PWIs, he doesn't feel the culture. So when it was prom, and that was Keisha's prom, he was feeling the culture. He was feeling like very welcome and alive. So he's like, maybe I should go to Howard. That wasn't really the right thing to say, but he was just like, maybe I, feel like he should go to a school that's at least diverse, or an HBCU, because he's been going to PWIs all the time. He doesn't feel that type of culture. So to see that at prom, he kind of wanted to, recreate that or have that. So Keisha kind of felt a little bit weirded out, because you have her father basically telling her like, hey, this boy is lost, from one lost person to another lost person. Basically, that's what he's basically saying. He's lost. He needs to find some type of direction. So you know, he needs to find some type of direction, and, you know, he needs to find out what does he want to do. So when Keisha heard that, she was just like, yeah, it's not looking like he's finding some type of direction. He's basically using me as his direction, or like, you know, as what he is focused on. So, you know, Keisha kind of like tuned out with it, and, you know, that kind of like ruined the vibes. But I'm glad that Justin came to the terms on his own at the end, like, hey, I need to focus on me, focus on what I want to do first. You know, he ended up telling his parents, like, hey, I don't want to go to Northwestern. At least let me defer a year to, you know, focus on music, all that. And, you know, it did ruin the vibes, because Dawn called every person in her phone book to tell them that Justin got into, you know, college, her alma mater. And, you know, he's like, I wanted for a year. So it ended up working in the wild, but yeah, you know, he needs to focus on what he wants to do. What is his dream? What is his goal? What is his aspiration? He can't have it be Keisha. He can't have it be what Don Edwards want to do. He wants to do what does Justin Edwards want to do? He wants to make music. He wants to play basketball. Let's see what goals. My thing was just like, you know, if he doesn't want to play music or do music, he should go to college and then do music as his major. But, you know, while he's playing b-ball, whatever. But, you know, I guess is the college that was the bad thing. He probably should have picked a more diverse college, and maybe you'll feel a little bit better about doing that. Because I was just like, couldn't you just go to college and major in music and, you know, make your portfolio about that while playing basketball? Like, doing all three together? Like, couldn't that be something you could have done? But I guess he wants to find himself first, you know, make sure he knows who he is as a person and not have a relationship to find him, which was, you know, decent, you know, good, whatever. And that was basically it. Was it bittersweet end? You know, it was a bittersweet end, but I think it was very, you know, important to happen. So now here's some situations I need to talk about, because there's people like ranking on Dawn, and I'm just like, Dawn was a strict, gentle parent, okay? Strict and gentle. She just had a few things for Justin to follow. Rules. Who, what, when, where, why, you know, whatever. Communicate. There was some times where she was very overprotective of Justin, where Keisha told her mom about the whole tape situation. He wanted to go be out there to be with her. And Eric Edwards, you know, basically the father of the year, had to basically be like, no, Dawn, we taught him what to do. You know, be safe at night. You know, he's a young black man. She was basically a young black man. You know how things go. People get shot for less, you know. So she is very overprotective of her son for good reason. But, you know, Eric is like, for him to be a man, we're not going to be able to hold his hand forever. So just listen to the lessons and rules that we told you and follow them, and be home by midnight. And, you know, you go to the spot where I taught you, all that. Like, Eric really came in clutch. Like, multiple times in this show, he came in clutch for, while Dawn was kind of like crashing out. Now, at the end, when he was like, oh, you know, watch your mouth, because, you know, Justin was kind of cursing. I'm like, there was like maybe a few times Justin could have got slapped. A few times he could have got slapped, you know? But, you know, because this is a gentle, strict household, like, you know, he didn't get slapped. Because there was a few times, like, the way he was talking to Dawn, he could have got slapped for how he was speaking and how he was acting. But he didn't. He didn't get slapped. So, you know, there we have it. Dawn was just basically being a mother. And that's about it. You know, there were always times that, you know, she felt a little too overprotective or whatever, but Eric came in clutch. He calmed her down. They were a unit. They were a team, you know, raising their kids. So, you know what? Snap, snaps, clap, claps. Now, the only thing that Justin was very out of character, very like, what are you doing here, is the pool. The pool situation was just like, dude, like, dude. Him trying to get it on with Keisha in the pool, daylight, cameras around, all that, and, you know, with no protection. And Keisha's like, you know, after the talk that her father gave her, like, you know, he might trap you, all that, you know, it was just like, wow, really, Justin, really? Like, really, Justin? Like, I'm glad that he realized what he did was messed up, because, like, yo, people have a future to look towards to. Even though you're lost, someone has a future, okay? So, I mean, I don't know what he was doing, what he was thinking, but, you know, I'm glad he snapped out of it. I'm glad he snapped out of it, for sure. For sure. About Keisha didn't change her hair, da-da-da-da. Like, dude, back then, back before we got knotless, whatever, box braids was the thing. And second of all, her cousins literally most likely refreshed her braids in the front. So people talking about how she had her braids in for a long time, like that was the norm. Wear your braids for 2 to 3 months was the norm. Was literally the norm. For 4 or 5 episodes was just like, I mean, the timeline was kind of adding up with the hairstyle, and then she did end up taking out and, you know, using her natural hair for the rest of the show. But that's basically how it was. Box braids were able to keep in, and if you want to refresh some of the braids in the front to like make it look a little new, a little fresher, that's what you were doing. And it made sense because they showed you Keisha's cousins literally braiding her hair, so they most likely refreshed her braids a few times in the months that they were in. They probably most likely did. But yeah, Forever is really good. It got renewed for season 2. I'm so happy for it, because we definitely need more young adult black shows, black leading shows out here. So I'm glad they have a season 2. I mean, Netflix knew not to play around, because the show hasn't even been out for a full week yet. It came out May 8th. It got renewed May 14th. Like 6 days. This show has been out. Basically a week, less than a week, whatever. And it got a second season on the way. Like, I'll be so up, be so seated. Yeah. Like, yes, this is what we're talking about. This is what we need from Netflix. This is what we need. I feel like in a second season, if they do focus on the pandemic, is that, you know, Keisha will have to come back from Howard, come back to LA, you know, him and, you know, Keisha link up again, and then rekindle and all that. He's, you know, then most likely his gap year will be over by then, and he will probably make a decision of what school he wants to go to in the meantime, and, you know, all that. If they do keep the pandemic as something that went on in those years, that'll be really good. So we'll see how they, you know, do season 2, because this is very much inspired by the book. The book is only a one book standalone, so they can really, the writers, whatever, they can really do whatever they want to do with this series and take it where they want to go for these 2 characters and, you know, their families. So, but anyway, guys, if you have not watched Forever, watch Forever. And if you like this video, like the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns, and you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.